Hey everyone, this is Dylan here, and today I'm going to be going over clue cells. So clue cells are indicative of Gardnerella vaginalis. So that's going to be an anaerobic bug that causes bacterial vaginosis. And when you're looking at the wet prep, clue cells will basically means that the Gardnerella vaginalis is basically all around an epithelial cell and kind of looks like it's chewing it up. So that's what it looks like, and I have a picture of that too. So be careful when you're making that call that you're not just calling a folded epithelial cell a clue cell just because it looks kind of funky when it's folded, or if there's like a clump of epithelial cells, then you'll see like these different layers, and you maybe think that's been chewed up by the Gardnerella vaginalis bug. So definitely be careful not to misinterpret those two things. And generally, when a patient is positive for Gardnerella vaginalis or Bacterial Vaginosis, you're going to see a whole bunch of tiny gram-negative rod or gram-negative Coccobacilli bugs, anaerobic bugs there in the wet prep, and it's just going to be strewn with all of that, and you're going to see a lack of large bacilli or your Lactobacillus, because that's the underlying pathology of bacterial vaginosis, is that the normal flora, which would mainly be your Lactobacilli, have been depleted for whatever reason. It doesn't really talk about what the reason would be. It could be any reason. And then what's secondary to that is the prolific growth of your Gardnerella vaginalis and other anaerobic bugs that basically take advantage of that pH imbalance or the disruption of the normal microbiome of the flora there. And then you have the characteristic presentation of bacterial vaginosis. And then that's going to be treated with metronidazole, and that treats generally your anaerobic bugs and also Trichomonas. And so what's different about Trichomonas, remember in that case you only needed to see one Trichomonas to call it positive. And with clue cells, I'm not sure of what the actual number is. Is it whether it's a quarter of epithelial cells, have that high Gardnerella vaginalis growth on it, or are clue cells, or I don't have an exact number for that, but generally you're just going to be assessing whether it looks like there's a lot there, or whether you see lots of Lactobacilli and then only a couple weird epithelial cells, then that would be a negative. I would definitely not call that. And so the actual technical way to assess clue cell presentation or Gardnerella vaginalis causing bacterial vaginosis would actually be via the Nugent Criteria. So what that does, it gives a number for basically the amount of Lactobacilli there, and that's, I guess, a negative score, or it's not a positive score. And then it takes into account the mobiluncus, and then it takes into account the Gardnerella vaginalis and other similar anaerobes, and that gives a positive score. So basically you give these numbers, and then if you're above 7 or whatever, you're saying it's indicative, and then if you're 5 to 7 or whatever, it says you're indeterminate for bacterial vaginosis. So that's the technical way to do it, but you will not be doing that on a wet prep, which is what we're talking about with clue cell presentation. You would do that with a gram stain, and that would be done, let's say, if the specimen's collected from a clinic and then it gets sent to you, so it takes many hours to get to you, and then it doesn't really matter. You obviously can't call for Trichomonas, so you're just going to be doing a gram stain and then assessing bacterial vaginosis via the Nugent Criteria. That's how you would report it out. So those are two different ways to kind of get a similar type of assessment, but in the hospital we would just get a wet prep, and that includes clue cells. But that, as I mentioned, the Nugent Criteria is more technical, has some numbers to it, and you would do that in an outpatient setting, or at least that's what we did. So yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you know a little bit more about clue cells, and I'll see you next time.